Stephen Cognetti.
Yeah. Woo!
You need a breath. Exhale. Hey. Yes, please. I know we have a lot of cast crew.
We've got a lot of cast
Friends
crew
in
here.
your house, please.
Yeah, I want all the cast stand up right now. It's proof of life. They are alive and well. And Nick's and Bruce is on set. But other than that, they did a great job. They did, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you all. I mean, it sounds like you had your fan club here as well. It's amazing. I only wish to have as many fans as you guys do in the future. Thank you for what you guys did on the screen. So happy you guys made it tonight. Thanks. And I also want to give a shout out to my producer, Joe Vandelli. Production designer Sophie Schneider's here as well. And so many. So everyone who's on set, just stand up. Cinematographer Josh made it. I did not even know. He was there. You snuck in, just like you were sneaky on set. He wasn't sneaky on set. I don't know.
Rockland County, what do you have against it?
Rockland County is just where I wrote the original film in Washington Heights. So if you go over the GW Bridge, take a right, you're back in New York, in Rockland County. And that's where I found this amazing, beautiful, abandoned, creepy house. And that's what inspired the original story, where Alex goes out, finds this abandoned structure, decides he's going to take his house through out there. And, as in any horror movie, things go wrong, and nothing goes right, or we wouldn't have the film.
It's been some years since part 3, and I think there's a feeling of closure to that trilogy, and this really feels distinct. Almost like you wanted people who maybe had never seen the others to be able to love this, enjoy this. It feels like a classical haunted house movie. Tell us about where this came from and how you wanted to reapproaching the Hell House.
Yeah, I don't, is this even working? I don't even know.
Yes.
Okay, I'm boosting. Yeah, you guys remember Hell House 3? We just decided, like, hey, let's burn it down. I don't want to do another Hell House movie. I'm done. And so I thought I was done. And then in 2021, Joe and I embarked on another film. It's called 8254 Road. And and Sophie worked on that as well. A few other people here have worked on that. And so that is just a haunted house movie as well. It's not found footage. I was just excited about it. It's been in post-production for 2 years. I got bored waiting for this movie to come out of post-production, and then this idea hit me just to revisit Hell House, but do an original story, not a sequel, not a prequel, just kind of make it its own story, but in the world. But I wanted, it's so funny, like the first draft of the script. So I always knew I wanted to have Rebecca and Margot be our main characters. So they were from the first draft of the script. The first draft of the script, though, you guys were opening up a bed and breakfast in the Carmichael Manor. And so it's like, you got it at a steal because things happen there. But then again, so it's like, good thing a rewrite, happened. That's why rewrites happen. Cast the bad ideas on the first draft, and we get to, B20, and that's when we get the ones that we shoot with. So, but yeah, they were great. The story just came really, once I knew I wanted to shoot in the Carmichael family home, it was just fun to write scares into a whole new area that wasn't the Abaddon Hotel. Because the Abaddon Hotel scares were getting stale. So we get 2, 3, and you're doing the same thing. I was like, I can't make another scare in 2C. I mean, I think we're tapped out for 2C. So glad that we just burned it down and we have a whole new place.
Well, I want to ask you about your approach to scares, because even as the series has gone on and mythology has gotten deeper,
yeah,
you have a real skill for the simplicity of fear and kind of those moments where you just are sitting there going, that shouldn't be there. And that's like real filmmaking craft, and I'm curious about your approach here, the types of scares you want to approach. You have almost every type. You have very simple jump scares, but you have really elaborate kind of sequences. When you're coming up with those, how's it go?
I love subtlety. I love things in the background. On the first one, I would always say on set, less is more, subtlety is everything. And so that's why I applied that to the scares as well. My favorite scare in modern horror, the thing that gives me chills whenever I just even talk about it, is actually from the movie The Strangers. And when Liv Tyler's on the phone and you first see them in the background, it's the first time you see that they're in the house, and nothing happens, they don't jump at her, they don't do anything, they're just standing in the background. That is absolutely terrifying to me. And that's why I always kind of approach scares like that, just the things that will just make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, more so than something jumping out of the closet and saying boo. And I think that's the difference between a paranormal horror movie and a slasher horror movie. I think slashers are kind of built on that moment, that big moment, and I think a good paranormal based movie is more things that just kind of subtly creep you out and don't jump at you. So that's the way I approach it all the time. But yeah, I love that scene from and going back to Blair Witch. Like Blair Witch, nothing really happens in Blair Witch, but it's terrifying. You know, like really, it's just, and they scare you with the unknown, and the less you know, it's just more terrifying. That's what the genius of Blair Witch, and that's what I love about it. So we try to capture that as much as we can. But I fully understand when you watch these movies, there's a lot of decisions that the characters make that make no sense. And you know, and I get that when you're watching, like, why would they do that? And I get like the best example from this film that I always say, and I was actually telling an audience, Destiny's scene where the closet opens and the red ball bounces out to her. There's not a single person in this audience that would actually then walk to the closet to check it out. But if characters make great decisions, then there's no movie. So, you know, like it's just, we have to have them make some stupid decisions, but, you know, it has to walk the line. It can't be too stupid, but kind of stupid. So you guys make, like, the characters make a lot of kind of stupid decisions. Nothing over the top, I don't think.
Can you talk about the sort of layer? You almost have a found footage movie within a found footage movie.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the construction of the 80s footage, how you wanted to approach the visual style? What did you use? Was it more filter based? Was the camera? Back in
film school, we used 16mm film, and that's when I learned to digital is better. It's quicker, it's faster, and don't fool around with 16mm if you don't have to. I thought it would be very cool to shoot the found footage, the 80s stuff in 16mm film, but then I realized we just opened ourselves, like if something happened, if something went wrong with the processing or anything like that, then we couldn't get the back. So we had to shoot it digitally, so the way it looked 16mm is all filters in the end. Same thing with the sound, we made the sound work differently, but I just love adding in that layer. You know, I'd always wanted to make something in the 80s with the Abaddon Hotel, the backstory there, but you know, for a lot of reasons we can't do that because the biggest reason being that the Abaddon Hotel itself is not what it was back in the original movie. They changed it a lot, they knocked down walls, they have everything, so it's like to film something actually in the Abaddon but have it based in the 80s was going to be a huge undertaking. So what we do is just have little glimpses of what might have happened there. And that's what this home video kind of shows. It gives a little glimpse of what might have happened to Patrick Carmichael at the hotel.
Great, let's move to some audience questions. First up, back there.
I just want to say quickly, as a horror fan in 2023 in this day and age, like you spend hours scouring through streaming services looking for good ones, and you know it's like a 10-to-1 ratio of bad. And Hell House is one of those rare ones where it's like you nailed it, and like the experience that I love. My favorite things on Reddit, people come on and say, "Anyone heard this Hell House LLC?" And then just people pile on, "Yes, man, it's awesome. Welcome, great, it's fantastic, yeah, you know."
Awesome.
So first of all, just
Thank you for saying that. It's so nice of you to say. I thought you were going to go the other way. I could have gone either way.
You nailed it. You made like a really great movie. I watched Blair Witch the other night, and I watched the original last night, and it's just like you're up there with it. Like, it's really,
Thank you so much.
great.
Nothing beats Blair Witch is the best, but thank you for saying that we're up there with it.
I
So.
wanted to know, I mean, you kind of answered it already a little bit. I just wanted to hear you. You know, you said the original idea was inspired by the building itself.
Yeah.
Was it the initial? Was it always a found footage? Was it always like? Was it like a budget thing where it's just like we can just move to concept and you know? Like how did this sort of? How did it come to be?
Yeah, it's a good question. And No, the first draft of the original Hell House movie was a disaster. It's a terrible script, and I feel bad for like people like Joe Bandelli who had to read it, and of course my wife who does all my spell checking because I spell the most obvious words I spell wrong. But so that was actually a narrative film. The original Hell House was not found footage; it was a narrative film, and then I didn't like it. It was, as I just said, it was not a good script. But the basis was there, just being in a haunted house attraction gone wrong. That was always there, and the lead up to it, this group of people trying to figure out what's going on in this house, what's the backstory to it. I rewrote it. I just kind of thought I like the true crime approach, like the documentary approach. And Lake Mungo is one of my favorite found footage movies of all time. I love that movie, and it just feels so real. And I watched that a few years before I wrote Hell House, and that was like kind of an inspiration to know that you can make something scary in the foul doc kind of world. I love what they did with it, so I just kind of took that original script I did and then put it to that. And I realized that once I turned it to found footage, you lose a lot of the narrative plot that you can't tell in found footage, because you don't have to justify a camera anywhere in regular narrative, but you have to justify in found footage. What I hate about found footage. Everyone's gonna ask, why was the camera there? Well, because I wanted the camera there, but again, but you can't do that, right? So that's the biggest challenge there. But when I transitioned it to a documentary, it just flowed so much better. Everything about it just came, and I just loved the idea. And then having that, setting the movie that opens with the footage of what happened. So we show you everything in the beginning, and then we just have the fun of going back, starting the story off to like going back in time and finding out how do we get to that point. I thought it was just a fun way of telling the story, and I think it worked out. I mean, obviously it's just like, oh yeah, we go found footage. We can afford to make this movie too. That's obvious as well, because movies, they're not cheap. So yeah, that was a little bit of both creativity and a little bit of budget, a little bit of both. Yeah. Good question. And thank you so much for it. That's so nice of you to say that.
Hey, hi, my name's Tim. I've been an avid found footage fan since I saw the last broadcast in '98, and I was 18 years old. And since then, found footage is my favorite subgenre of horror.
Yeah.
You have created what I think, personally, is the best trilogy that is now becoming a universe found footage has ever seen. And you have... Of course. First Hell House, I remember watching it 2-3 o'clock in the morning, couldn't sleep. Perfect movie. So I was like, actually had a nightmare from it. And now I'm a horror fan, so it's hard for movies to give me nightmares, and other friends have done that, so congrats on giving people nightmares. But what I want to ask you is, what gives you nightmares?
You didn't hear in the back. The question is, sir, what gives you nightmares?
I want to say nothing scares me. I do have 3 fears though. They're bees, lightning, and bees that move as fast as lightning. So those are definitely my 3 greatest fears. So I would say those for sure are up there. I don't remember I had a nightmare recently about bees and lightning together. But honestly, I find inspiration anywhere I am, in any place I am, any building I'm in. I always think of like, what spooky could happen here, and I try to give myself chills thinking about it. And if I give myself chills thinking about it, then I'm gonna write it down and save that for a story and put it into one of my scripts. And a lot of things that I put into these movies are things that kind of happen subliminally to me, like in a way. On the peripheral or something like that. So like this, I just kind of find it, I try to scare myself as much as I can in any setting I'm in. And and if I succeed, I kind of like, ooh, that was a scary thought you just had. Remember to write that down. Tape recorder. I don't have a tape recorder, but I'll write that down. I'll put that into the script, try to flesh it into the story somehow. I'll try to work it into the story. Sometimes I'll force it. So the thing about like Destiny, her job, working in real estate. I mean, we just made that so that I can make that scare of her on the computer. Yeah. So it's like you kind of like, I love the idea of a zoom scare where the pictures start becoming the reality of where she is, and then that's where I was like, well, how are we going to do that? We have to make that her job. So it's like that's you're working in the way, however way you can. But thank you so much for the compliment as well. I promise you, all the people I paid to ask questions are now. But I'll get you afterwards. No, but thank you.
Of course.
Hi.
Hey.
Alex. I'm curious about how you maintained momentum with your cast on set. Like so much is about build and build and tension. So like when you took breaks in filming and set up the next shot, like talking about how you talk to your cast.
For anyone in the back, the question is about momentum and pace and keeping up with cast on set and keeping the energy alive.
Yeah. I don't have to do any of that. When we're on breaks, I go and hyperventilate in the bathroom somewhere. The cast does that themselves. They are just the best. You guys you're in the middle of the road. I just found their energy so inspiring. We all fed off their energy. Everybody on both sides of the screen, everyone just had a lot of fun on this production, and I think it's a lot about our location was a lot of fun to be at, and the group, both sides of the camera, everyone was just perfect at what they did, and we just all bonded, had a great time. There was no moment where there was like frustration, or there was a moment on the original Hell House where I thought like this is not going to work out. There's a lot of times where I thought this isn't going to work out. We have to like stop filming, come back, get the scene later. Sarah's death scene, when we first filmed it, was a disaster. We had to come back and get that later. Blah blah blah. We never had that on this film. It was just everything just flowed so well, and I think that starts with the cast because they're invested in the material, and when they're invested in the material, they get this energy going, and everyone feeds off of their energy. And so it's not up to me to do anything. That's all on them.
Hello, I'm Damien, also a huge horror movie fan. When you are making horror films, sometimes in certain ways, like, you know, a movie can be scary as hell, but the story doesn't necessarily land, or the story's great, but the horror doesn't necessarily match up. Whenever you made this film, I feel like both of them like really click. I especially love what you mentioned, The Strangers, because I got a lot of vibes from that. It's literally like my second favorite horror movie behind Scream. And I just wanted to know, like, how do you, like, when you're writing this and before it like all starts to come together, like, or before you start filming, like, when do you feel like you finally found that sweet spot where the horror meets the story that you created?
Yeah, good question. That's a tough one. I just keep on writing draft after draft. I always say that you write, I always tell this to other people, filmmakers and writers, to write that first draft no matter how shitty that draft is. A lot of people stop halfway through a script because they're like, this is terrible. Doesn't matter if it's terrible, finish it. You have to finish that first script. And when you finish that first script, you have a blueprint. You can look down at that script, have a bird's eye view of all the bad things, all the good things, and then you go through it, you layer it, you make it better. And that's my favorite thing about having a draft of a script, is that I get to print it out and take red markers, blue markers, everything, and just start marking it up, making fun connections later, like things that I didn't originally connect when I wrote an ending, but like when you get to the ending, you're like, oh wait, I can tease that in the beginning. I can lay an Easter egg. I can bring something into the beginning or to the middle act and set up a scare here or that way. So it's fun just to get that draft out there, and then just start peppering it and layering it and putting in Easter eggs. And I love the idea of like setting up, like having the end of a scare. You don't know how you got there, but then coming back and then then living the scare actually. So I love setups like that. So it takes a few drafts before I'm comfortable with it, sending it to anyone to read and give me feedback and notes. But that's for me, that's the best part. It's very relaxed. It's a few, I would say probably like 5 months process of getting that draft, and then from there letting other people. But it took a full year for this to get to where I was able to say, okay, this is our draft. This is what I'm comfortable to start location scouting, start casting on. But that takes a while. And the thing is, script writing, it's going to take a long time, and sometimes you have to sit on ideas. And I loved, on my way down here, I took the A train down here. When I wrote the original Hell House, I took the A train every day to work, and I would get up every day at 5 a.m., write for an hour, get on the subway, and come down. And my best ideas came to me when I was on the subway, and I love that. I just love that time in my own head, just thinking of things over and over in my head. And that same thing happened in the edit too. A lot of things of like, in Hell House, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to make these scenes connect, and then something clicked. And and usually it was like, oh, use a glitch. It's a little found footage trick, is when something's not really, coming together, you just use a glitch. It's a great effect. I love that. And I remember, like, there was a scene where I was like, this does not. And I Googled it, and they said, like, you can just use these effects in your movie. And I was like, we can? Oh my God. And I was like purchased. And that saved the original Hell House. The glitch effect. I'm a big fan of glitches.
One more question. Right there.
First part, when I watched the trailer and I saw that the clowns were back, I was devastated. So my question was, did you always see the clowns as having the big part of the story, or did that kind of evolve because they were kind of like the titular scare of the original?
Yeah. Yeah, second part, yeah.
Trilogy?
What's that?
Is this sort of another trilogy?
Okay, well, let's. Okay, first question is, the clowns will, no, the clown was a big part of the original. So the first scare I ever wrote is my favorite scare in the original House. That's when Paul wakes up in the middle of the night and he sees the clown standing at the bottom of the steps. And that slow approach, I love that scare. Nothing changed from the first draft of the script to the end. That slow walk down the steps towards the clown, I thought it was just really fun, and I loved it. It was effective. I thought it worked well. And so when we got the clown and we had the costume and the mascot and everything, like, we knew that this clown was scary. So it just became, we peppered it in a little bit more than it was in the original script and there. But no, it was never supposed, it was just, what was scary was just all the paranormal, unexplainable events happening in the hotel. It was never supposed to be about the clown, but the clown kind of took over a little bit because of how scary it is. But I think a lot of people say the scariest in the original was the little girl in Paul's bedroom when he turns on the light. That's everyone's kind of favorite scare. That worked out well, too. In terms of a trilogy, I put that teaser at the end there. I would love to make something about the Rockland County Fair. I don't know if that's what's going to happen next or not, but I would love to do that, and that's what I've always wanted to do, something cool like that. Because I love, like, the carnival fair kind of atmosphere, like a fall, anything you do, like anything related to, like, fall and Halloween, which is like, I love that atmosphere. It's like something you could just smell it. Like, that's what Halloween has. It's like one of the only seasons that has like a taste of smell to it, just like Christmas or something like that. But I love everything about this time of year right now, and nothing says that more than just like the Rockland County Fair. So. What's that?
So more clowns.
Well, I mean, yeah, we had 2 more. How many more clowns do you need? No, we had 2 more in this, and the 2 more would just kind of give a little backstory to the original clown that we know from Hell House. So yeah, I would love to. I just don't really exactly know what's next as of right now. But thank you.
Everyone, Stephen Cognetti. Is on Shudder on Monday. Tell every single person you know,
Yes.
Make sure they tell every someone.
Yeah.
Thank you.